Greetings from the west coast of Canada. My name is Dr. David Richard Boyd, and I'm the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment. I'm also a professor at the University of British Columbia, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to make these brief opening remarks at your very timely judicial colloquium on the environmental rule of law. We live at a time of unprecedented global environmental degradation. The signs are all around us. Through our burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial agriculture, we have pushed rates of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to over 400 parts per million, the highest rate in 650,000 years. Humans are causing the sixth major or mass extinction in the 3.8 billion years of life on Earth. And pollution is one of the major causes of premature death in the world today, with air pollution alone accounting for over 7 million premature deaths, including approximately 600,000 deaths of children under the age of 5. So there couldn't be a more important time for judges to play an essential role in asserting and improving the environmental rule of law. And one of the most powerful mechanisms for doing that is through judicial enforcement of the human right to live in a healthy and sustainable environment. This is a human right that was first identified in 1972 in the Stockholm Declaration that emerged from the first Global Eco Summit. And since then, it has really spread like wildfire throughout all regions of the world. There are now over 130 countries that have ratified international agreements that incorporate explicitly the right to a healthy environment, including the Aarhus Convention, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, the San Salvador Protocol, the Middle East Charter on Human Rights, and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Declaration on Human Rights. There are over 100 countries in the world today where the right to a healthy environment enjoys constitutional recognition and protection. Now, in approximately 20 of those countries, that's as a result of judicial intervention, where courts have ruled in countries that do not explicitly have the right to a healthy environment in their constitutions, courts have ruled that the right to a healthy environment is an essential part of the constitutional right to life. So we have over 130 countries where this right enjoys international legal protection, over 100 countries where it enjoys constitutional protection, and there are also over 100 countries where this right to a healthy environment has been incorporated at the national level in environmental legislation. In total, 155 of the UN's 193 member states has a legal obligation to respect, protect, and fulfill the right to a healthy environment. And part of my role as the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment is to push the United Nations to try and secure global recognition of this right so that it is enjoyed by everyone, everywhere. Now, the right to a healthy and sustainable environment has both procedural and substantive elements. The procedural elements, which are clearly set forth in the Aarhus Convention, are that everyone has the right of access to information, the right to participate in decision-making with environmental consequences, and the right of access to the justice system, the right of access to remedies in cases where their rights are being either violated or threatened with violations. Those are the three cornerstones of the procedural elements of the right to a healthy environment. On the substantive side, we have a number of elements which I categorize as the right to breathe clean air, the right of access to safe drinking water and adequate sanitation, the right of access to proper waste management services, to live in a non-toxic environment, the right to a safe climate, and the right to healthy ecosystems and thriving biodiversity. So these aspects of the right to a healthy and sustainable environment have actually been the subject of judicial consideration. I have read hundreds of court decisions from more than 50 countries around the world in which the right to a healthy and sustainable environment has been interpreted and enforced. Some of the leading courts in the world in terms of their jurisprudence on the right to a healthy environment are the Constitutional Court of Costa Rica, the Constitutional Court of Colombia, the Supreme Court of Argentina, the Supreme Court of the Philippines, and many courts in Europe. So courts in France, Portugal, Spain, Greece, Latvia. As I said, many courts have reached the decisions on the right to a healthy and sustainable environment. So this is not an area where judges are required to be activists. This is an area where judges are really exercising their core functions as defenders of constitutions, as defenders of human rights, and as playing a vital role in ensuring the environmental rule of law. So the judicial role is really one of improving the enforcement and implementation of commitments which governments have already made. And some of the most extraordinary decisions have gone a bit farther than you would expect a court to go by using such remedies as continuing mandamus to maintain jurisdiction over a particular matter and ensure that governments are fulfilling their constitutional obligations as clarified and set forth in court orders. I think that the judiciary has a tremendously important role to play in all of this. As I said, we are at a time of unprecedented environmental degradation. And so for the judiciary to step in and play a role in moving us towards a sustainable future is really vitally important. As I said, I will continue to push forward at the United Nations level for recognition of the right to a healthy and sustainable environment. There are countries that are adding this right to their constitution and legislation every year. In recent years, we've seen Fiji, the Dominican Republic, Kenya, Tunisia, Zambia, and others add the right to a healthy environment to their constitution. Cuba is actually having a referendum next week on a new constitution which does include the right to a healthy environment. And we're also seeing just incredible new cases coming out from courts around the world. So last year there was a decision from the Hague Court of Appeal in a widely known case called Urgenda, which ordered the government of the Netherlands to fulfill its international human rights obligations by taking more aggressive steps to address climate change. An incredible case from the Supreme Court of Colombia last year, in which a group of 25 youth brought a lawsuit against the government and resulted in a court decision that the government has to come up with a short-term plan to end deforestation in the Amazon rainforest. So these are just a few examples from around the world. I hope that you have a successful colloquium, and I also hope that you're able to exercise your power as judges to increase respect for the environmental rule of law, to ensure that governments fulfill their obligations regarding the right to a healthy and sustainable environment, and to push human society towards the future that we all so fervently desire, that is a sustainable and healthy future for all. Thank you very much, and best of luck.